Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about things Sweden does better than most countries in the world. I've got 6 on my list, so let's jump into it. For those of you new, my name is Shalika Marker. I was brought up in Sri Lanka, lived for 10 years in England, and for the last 15 to 16 years, I've been raising my young boys and working here in Sweden. And on my channel, I like to support and give people who are planning to move to Sweden or even living in Sweden just some really positive vibes about Sweden, because there's so much positive things that really outweigh all of the negatives. So let's jump into my list. The first thing on my list is parenting and parenting leave. We covered that in last week's video. I went into length there as to why Sweden ranks as one of the top 5 countries in the world to raise your children. But today I want to cover how it works when your children are sick, something that we called VUB. VUB here means that you are allowed, or you are paid 80% of your salary to stay at home with sick children. Now, being a nursery teacher, I know the younger children, when they start nursery school, they are sick all the time. They've got fever, they've got conjunctivitis, they've got the stomach flu, they've got stomach bug, they've got a throwing up sickness. There are a number of sicknesses here that the children do develop in nursery school. It takes away all of the stress, because in other countries you have to save your vacation days to take off with your sick children. You are likely going to lose some paid vacation as well as some non-paid vacation. You're going to have to find nannies to look after, or you're going to have to work with your sick kids at home. And we are so lucky as parents here in Sweden, we don't have to do any of that. The culture is built around the fact that you stay home with your young children when they're sick up to the age of 12, and in certain circumstances it can go further, but you are allowed 120 days between both parents. Both parents can shift for the entire year, and nobody ever really takes 120 days. Sri Lanka, you have grandparents and an infrastructure that will help you look after your children, but in a lot of countries like the States and in Australia, you don't have those luxuries of having grandparents or people close by, and it can be very stressful for parents. So this is at the top of my list of things that Sweden does better. Number 2 is work-life balance. Sweden does a great job of giving everybody who lives there a really good work-life balance. You have a lot of systems in place that allow you to feel comfortable in taking your leave, your 5+ weeks that you get a year. Loads of people take their holidays during the summertime in August or June, July, August. A lot of things shut down here, so you don't feel like everybody else is working and you're missing out. It really has a good system in place and a culture that's built around a good work-life balance. It really allows people to relax about their jobs, not to feel like they need to work 110% or even more. It is somewhat looked down upon here, all of the overtime. Even in my job, you're not supposed to really work overtime unless you have to, or your bosses require you to do that. And it really is not encouraged here to work over and above your hours. Now, do people do that? Of course they do. I have friends of mine who have to work at home when they get back home. They've got a lot of work to do, but sometimes they work for American companies, sometimes they work for other international companies, and sometimes they work for Swedish companies as well. But as a general rule, work-life balance is a huge thing here, with all of your leave and working overtime not encouraged. Number 3 is gender equality. Now, gender inequality is on the rise here in Sweden, unfortunately, and there may be a number of factors for it, but compared to most other countries in the world, we are pretty high up there when it comes to gender equality. Parents split the childcare between them. Fathers stay home when the kids are sick. Fathers stay home during parental leave. Everything is sort of kind of balanced. Women have the same opportunities in the workplace for the most part. I'm not saying Sweden is perfect, and like I said, inequality is on the rise, but compared to most other countries, this is something that Sweden does best. Number 4 on my list has to be the child-centered culture. Child-centered culture, really what I love about it is the fact that people don't look down upon parents who take leave to be with their sick children, who take leave to go on vacation with their children. Friday, all of the families, most families here in Sweden have something called fredagsmys. Most people won't go out, they will stay at home with their kids, and it's a movie night with the kids. It's set into the culture. There is a lot of activities that you do with your children as a family. Family-centered culture here in Sweden is just amazing, because as a parent, for me, if I go to a shop, my child is throwing a tantrum, nobody is going to bat an eyelid, because the stress that's going to create, extra stress is going to create on a parent who's already struggling with their tired or irritable child, that they had no option but to bring to the shop to do their shopping. And in most cultures, these things are looked down upon. And in Sweden, it just makes life for parents so easy. There is a lot centered around family. Play areas, shopping centers, all of them have a child-friendly system built around them, so parents don't feel bad to bring their kids to all of these places, because sometimes, like I said, you don't have support, you don't have nannies when your children are small. In Sweden, children are quite independent early, so I think around the ages of 7 or 8, you could leave them at home. You'd feel comfortable leaving them home to go to the grocery store, which is often very close by, and we'll get to that as a point. But I think it really is great that it's such a family-centered culture here in Sweden that really helps parents bring up their children confidently and not to add any extra stress on the parents, to keep their lives as calm and as stress-free as possible. Number 5 on the list is recycling and sustainability. Now, Sweden is far ahead. It is number 1 in the world, hands down, with all of their recycling and all of their sustainability programs that are in place. Now, I don't know a lot about it. It's not my expertise, but I do know that it is really high up there, with most other countries really ranking quite low compared to Sweden. We do so much recycling. We even buy other countries' garbage in order to use it to create energy here. It is just a fascinating country when it comes to sustainability, recycling. A lot of people are encouraged to buy secondhand. You give your clothes to other people. It's a lot of exchange of clothes, for young children especially. I have a number of things in my house that I have found at the charity store. There are so many sort of garage sales here up in the north, charity shops. People can go a place and leave all of their things. There's lots of recycling. Even Banan, one of the best countries when it comes to sustainability and recycling. We send very little of our waste from the houses to landfills here in Sweden. Those of you watching, and if you are an expert on this, please leave a comment and some information in the description box below. I'm not an expert, but I do know the sheer amount of recycling I do in my school and I do here. We train the children in recycling. We've got recycling bins in the class. The children learn to recycle the metal and the glass, how important it is. Huge thing that instilled in young children right from the beginning, and that Sweden does so well. Normally I do 5 on my list just to keep the videos short, but today I had to include this. So we've got 6 things. Number 6 is urban planning and walkable cities. Now, I can attest to this. I moved from my flat into this house in 2014 when my first son was born. Now, these were some of the first homes built in this area. It was an up-and-coming area. They were building it, Barkarbystaden. It used to be a huge air base. If I'm not mistaken, before we had IKEA. It was established here as the IKEA that you had in the northern Stockholm, and it also had a outlet area where it was very popular. People would come to do their shopping, but there was a lot of land that wasn't being used here, and they decided to build another city. Now, every time they build a city, even my husband grew up in Viksjö. My in-laws moved in there in 1977, 50 years ago. And every time they build these sort of areas for people to live in, especially where I'm living in, you have a grocery store, you have a doctors, you have a nursery school, you have schools, you have shopping areas. everything in walking distance. Now, my kids could have gone to the school that's close by here. It would have taken them all of 3 minutes to get to school. So the urban planning and infrastructure here in Sweden is just amazing. It is all made around people and walkable distances as opposed to cars and highways. And where my in-laws live, their infrastructure is even better than ours because they've got lots of tunnels. So the kids, when they cycle, they go under the tunnel. They don't need to cross the road. It's not exactly the same for me here, but my Ica Maxi is just 5 minutes from where I live, and it is for most people. And there are a plethora of shops around this area, and this area was a shopping center or a shopping area even before it became a residential area. And it is just amazing to see how much thought and planning goes into it. Now, I do want to say, though, that Järfälla commune, where I live in, they are struggling a little bit because they've gone into a lot of debt. They have borrowed a lot from the government or the banks. I don't really know how the system works. And I do understand that it has cost them a lot more to build this area than they actually initially anticipated. And it's also taken them a lot longer. They have changed and upgraded the train station that's close by. You only had a train station. You didn't have a tube. So they've been building a tube station as well since I moved in here. So it's taken them a really long time and a lot of money. Obviously, the pandemic hit as well. But I do think even with all of those problems, and is Sweden perfect? It's not. But the detail to urban planning and walkable distances to all your amenities, one of the most amazing things that Sweden does here. The detail to planning is bar none. So I hope this video has been helpful, giving you some information on all of the things that Sweden does better than most other countries. Now, Sweden is by no means perfect. Like I said, I'm doing these videos and I'm being really positive on these videos because I love Sweden so much. And I think it's so sad because most of the stuff that you see nowadays online about Sweden are all of the negative things like crime rates and high cost of living and high taxes. And while all of that is true for the most part for those of us living here in Sweden, it is just something that we accept. The level of trust here in our government and our governmental bodies is very high, and we trust that they do the best they can, what they think is the best for us, our families, our children, our country, and our way of life here. So thank you so much for being here. I know I'm a foreigner. It's my perspective. My children are Swedish. My husband is Swedish. And I am so grateful that I'm able to live in this country. Thank you for those of you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.